Several years ago, I made a promise to produce a video on how to make scale bars. This video was 4 years ago, and to say the least, 4 years is a lot of time, but here it is. So if this is the first video you're seeing, if you are interested in the technicalities behind how scale bars work, then please go check out that first video. It's very, very informative and probably a little bit too in-depth now looking back at it. But if you're just interested in how to actually make a scale bar, how to use it with your photogrammetry, then stick around. We're in the workshop today. It's actually mostly behind the cameras, but yeah, we're going to actually do something practical. Let's go. I've made a lot of these things in the past. So as discussed in the previous video, photogrammetry packages can automatically detect these things called coded targets or coded markers, April tags, circular targets, circular coded targets, I don't know, the list goes on. They go by a lot of different names, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using them quite interchangeably in this. So when we identify these targets in our photogrammetry software, we can actually not just identify them as control points, but we can identify them as ground control points. Now, there's a distinction here. Control points are purely just whatever position in space they are. So if you move your scene around, change where the origin is, then those points X, Y, Z coordinate will shift with it. However, if we set these as ground control, that means that we can assign X, Y, and Z coordinates to each of these targets. So by assigning X, Y, and Z coordinates to the targets, we can actually define the location of our scan within the world, right? So for instance, here, I can say all of these targets are 5 centimeters apart along their primary axis. However, they're also 5 centimeters below and 10 centimeters to the left of the origin point. So that when we scan this little guy, he comes in at the world center or world origin. So that's immensely powerful, but we also know that if we have the exact scale or the exact distances and positionings of these targets, that the scale that this guy will come in at should be, gosh, like 0.02 millimeters or so. You know, there's a deviation, but your scale's going to be pretty bloody good. So, shall we go make some? Oh, my knees! All right, welcome to the Scale Bar Designer tool. There's kind of a generalized layout theme, as you can see. On the left here, we've got document settings. This holds some critical fields which you need to set up before you can actually make your scale bar. Primarily this software preset one you can see here. If you use Metashape, use the Metashape preset. If you use Reality Scan, use the Reality Scan. If you use Zephyr, use Zephyr. This just defines the April tag or circular targets that you can use, and these target families are basically set up exclusively for those softwares, as Metashape has a slightly different circular target family to Reality Scan and Zephyr. So important information, make sure you kind of keep track of that. Down further, we've got the paper size. Set it when you start so that you're always working within a known bound. Then below that again, we've got orientation and then the units. So for me, I'm going to be setting it to metric. And right down the bottom here, you've got the photogrammetry command output. This outputs a command file or command script which lets you automate the scale bar detection and assignment within your photogrammetry software of choice. So if you use reality scan, this will output a CLI command which you can run in the program, or in Metashape will output a Python file which you can run to automate that within Metashape. So I'm going to leave these settings as is because this is what we're going to use today. I'll just hide those settings now. Along the top we've got some templates. I thoroughly recommend taking a look at these. They're quite useful and show you quite a range of different options for what you can do in this tool. And then along here you've got the loaders for the templates, reset, share, guide, in-depth. These two guide and in-depths are kind of walkthroughs, as you can see here, kind of highlights everything that we've got, and then undo, redo, and the rest. Below that we've got tools. So these tools are actually also replicated over here under add item, with the exception of the noise and home location settings. Now on the left side we've got our add items. We've also got a layers. Some of these can be dragged around, so you can see these little handles here. And then below that we've got properties. Now we're going to be making a really simple 3-tag scale bar today. To do that, I just select and drag this tag down. I'll drag this one down as well, and you can see in the middle here we've got this little tag to tag distance measurement widget. These can be hidden inside of the properties menu and also kind of dragged to the side if that's what you want. When you select a tag, you'll notice we've got a couple of things here. We've got these. When you select a tag, you'll notice we've got a couple of things here. We've got these little circles which appear. These circles let you click and quickly place another tag directly parallel with the current tag. For this one, we'll be going for a 10 by 15 centimeter scale bar. So we'll just drag that there, and as you can see here, 15 centimeters apart. And then we've got this little home widget. Now this home widget defines the X, Y, and Z coordinates of your target's output, so where they exist in the calculated world space when they're set to be ground control points. So if we select a target here and we go show relative X, Y, Z, you can see below each target we've got these little X, Y, and Z text items. Now if we click and drag on the home, you can see these are adjusting. So if we place it at the center of our central target here, you can see they're now 0, 0, 0. So that means this is going to be the center of our world. And then you can see over here, this one's 100 millimeters on the x-axis, and then this one is 150 millimeters on the y-axis. So we'll just zoom back out again. Now we've also got a bunch of little widgets and stuff that you can place around to help you get more visual ideas of the scale of these. This is kind of inspired by like archaeology or crime scene investigation reference scale bars. These are effectively grids of black and white checkers a set distance apart. So in this case, these are 1 centimeter across and 50 millimeter high checkers. So I'm just going to set this one to be 10 centimeters wide. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create another one. But this one here, under the properties, I'm going to change it to segmented ticks. So this is kind of a more standard ruler style icon. So we'll just place that in the middle here. And I'm just going to make it 15 by 15, or 15 centimeters wide. And then I'm just going to drag it down one to center it between our two targets. And then I'm also going to check this ruler numbers box over in the properties menu. And so you'll see that we've got the numbers showing up above it. I actually need to fix that bug where every other number doesn't show up at certain lengths. It might be fixed by the time you get to use this. Let's now add a couple more things in. So I'm going to add some text. Let's say reality scan scale bar 10 centimeters by 15 centimeters. And then we'll select that and we'll center that text, and I'll just rotate it and set it kind of here. I think it's about good for what I'm after. So what I'll do now is switch on the noise. So in the top shelf, we'll change noise off to on. And as you can see, we've now got this kind of blocky digital noise, which I find pretty fantastic for alignments. So we'll use that here. And I think that's pretty good. One last thing just before we jump into printing. If you select the kind of outline here, you can actually change the shape. It can either be like a rectangle, it can be a conformed box, it can be angled. I find this quite useful in some cases. In fact, you saw that earlier. It can be circle, and you can also manually draw an outline if that's something you're after. But for this, we'll just leave it at conform. Jumping up into export, you can see here we've just got a quick little preview of what we're going to be doing, the DPI as well as the export mode, and this is basically just if it's exporting vectors or if it's just going to be exporting like a bitmap image, and you can also change your format here. We've also got another output of your photogrammetry command for automating the detection and assignment of this. So always a good idea to copy this out just so that you've got it on record, because this tool doesn't save anything to any servers. It's all kind of run locally in your web browser. There's no back end to it. So let's just click export, and there we go. We've got a little scale bar in our downloads. So we'll go off and print this. Printing. Most paper is not good for scanning. Primarily because it's not rigid. I mean, if you look at a scale bar, it's hard. It's rigid, it's strong, and it's straight. Paper is not. So we need to either glue the paper down to a surface, but that can introduce errors like ripples in the paper from bad gluing or bad adhesion, or you can use what I use, and that's sticker paper. So you can get these sheets of sticker paper from pretty much any stationery store, I assume. Although, you know, that's from my personal experience, but you might find it differently. But yeah, I prefer to use sticker paper because it's very easy to stick onto surfaces, and it's cheap enough that you can, you know, if you break your scale bar or whatever, you can just print another one. So with that in mind, let's actually print this thing. All right, so here we are in the print menu for, I guess, Microsoft Edge, because that's all I've got on this computer. But this printing step is the most important part of the entire process, really. If you come up into your print menu, often you'll see something like this. So you got your printer, portrait landscape options. What we are really interested in is here, the scale. So most printers default to fit to printable area. This will ruin your day. Whatever you do, always set it to actual size or 100%. If you do not do this, you will get incorrect scale, because if we now switch between the two, you'll see fit to printable area, smaller, actual size, larger. We're already taking print margins into account inside the tool. Then all we need to do is hit print. So let's do that. Wow, what a good looking scale bar. Let's make it. Oh, wait a minute. Hi. Hi, how's it going? I just wanted to say thank you for watching. Sorry about the massive wait, but also that this video is not sponsored. I'm doing this myself in my own time because, yeah, I just want to kind of put more content out there. I haven't done much over the past 4 years because I've been so busy with film work. My business has been working on some fairly major film productions over the last couple of years, from the BBC Prehistoric Planet, Spartacus, House of Asher, Minecraft movie, Wrecking Crew, Time Bandits. There's, you know, quite a range of films. The films industry here has kind of dried up. So I'm kind of taking this as an excuse to step away from that film work and that kind of industry that I've been in for the last 16 years, and taking all of the kind of learnings that I've gotten out of it, because I've made a ridiculous number of tools, rigging systems, things to hold things, software to capture things and process and automate, custom turntables. I've made multi-camera trigger controllers. I've done a lot of just things over the past few years. And so I've decided that now's the time to sit down and compile everything and take these like functional working prototypes that I've kind of been tinkering and refining over the years and turning them from that kind of prototype stage into a product that I think is worth buying because it's worked for me. It's helped me solve a lot of problems. It's made my work far quicker. It's streamlined processes. It's made scanning certain objects safer. You know, there's a lot of things that these tools that I've made have helped me achieve. And so I want to take that and give that to you guys. Of course, I'm not going to just ship hardware around the world for free. So I just want you to take a little journey to my web store if you're interested in buying this kind of stuff and just see what I've got on offer. The current state of it, there's only two products, the classic AR400 polarizing filter that's been selling for I think 6 years now, as well as fairly simple thing I like to call the scan park. But basically I'm working right now on selling and developing tools to help you scan things. And in the future there will also be electronic hardware that lets you automate captures and automate various processes. And that's all coming soon. But for now if you do need something, take a look at my website, see what I've got. If you're in the future, there's probably a lot more stuff there now, but for now it's a bit sparse. As I said, I'm working on it and I just want you to support me through purchasing things that I've made. I'd really appreciate it and it'll help me kind of get the confidence and income I need to keep my business afloat. I'm not going to stop making videos now. I feel like I've figured out the kind of video I want to make, and as you've probably noticed, it's been a lot more casual, which I like. I'm a bit of a chaotic person, so I bounce around a lot. So getting away from the really rigid videos that I used to make has been a really big breath of fresh air. So anyway, let's get back to it. Let's actually make these damn things and scan some stuff. So a lot of my previous scale bars, I've used plastics or plastic composite materials. Some I've made with aluminium, but just for the ease of me doing it for this video, but also if you don't have a lot of tools at home, I'm going to be using this material here. I believe it's called foam core. It's often used in like school or university, like those trifold sign projects, that kind of thing. But it's fantastic because it's really easy to cut. It's quite lightweight and it's also quite rigid. So let's actually look at cutting this out and putting something together. So looking through our top camera, we've got our printed scale bar, and I'm just going to do one thing really quickly first, and that is just do a little scale check. So I'm just going to set my calipers here to be 0. Yep, that's good. Let's bring this out to 1 centimeter exactly. So I don't know if you can see it on that camera, but we're pretty bloody close. Like that's within my vision's margin of error. I can't say that I could get any closer than that if I wanted to, and that's just giving me great confidence that the scale that we've printed here is going to be accurate. We've now got our foam core. We're first going to want to cut out our actual scale bar here so that we can lay it out and then stick it onto our foam core and then just cut the foam core down. For this, I'm going to be using my trusty straight edge. Fantastic. Now let's move on to the foam core. So I'm going to use this scrap that I've got here, and we'll just find a convenient location for it. I think it's going to work there. All right. Now I'm going to peel off the adhesive off this and stick it down. It's always better when you have at least a little bit of fingernail, but not too much, because your wife prefers it when you don't have too much fingernail. Cool. So that's pretty much stuck down as well as I'd like. So let's cut this foam core out. So now that we've got our scale bar cut out, we've got our kind of reality capture CLI command saved. Let's scan something. For the scanning that we're going to be doing for this example, I'm going to be using my trusty Godox AR400 mounted to one of my older Nikon D810 cameras. The D810 I'm using primarily because I've got one Sony over there and another one about to record this from a wider perspective. And honestly, they're fantastic cameras. For something from 2014, it still holds up. It might be a little bit heavy, but I mean, you can pick these up for dirt cheap. And they're 36 megapixels. I mean, come on. No optical low-pass filter. What? You get cheap lenses for them. A lot of people are moving to mirrorless, so kind of those older Sigma Art Primes, they're dirt cheap right now. So if you're starting out, look for a second-hand D810 or D800. I mean, you can probably see way back there or earlier. I've actually got a whole rig of these. I think I've got 14 or 15 of these D810, D800 cameras. Yeah, really worthwhile. As for the object, I'm going to be scanning it on a product I've been developing. I'm just going to show it on camera because, hey, free advertising, right? But yeah, so this is basically a scanning platform where you've got hundreds of small holes, carbon fiber rods of different lengths, threaded holes for mounting random things, as well as holes on the underside to kind of give it some elevation or width. Be popping the object on this. Now, as for the object, we're going to be capturing this wicker basket because it's fun. I'm going to be doing two sides of it, top and bottom, and we should get some pretty fantastic results. So yeah, let's do it. So now to start off the scan, I'm just going to shoot 3 or 4 images looking pretty much straight down at our scale bar. This is so that we know we've got like perfect clean data of it. It always reminds us when we start our capture process with the reference information, i.e. color chart, scale bar, that we have that data. Because if you don't do that and you capture it at some arbitrary point through your capture process, then you might forget, and then 3 months or 3 days, 3 weeks, whatever it is, goes by, and then you go to process your data, and how big is it? You got no idea. It's arbitrary. So never forget, capture first. Let's do this. With the first part of the capture done, we've got some clean images of the scale bar, but the problem is we've got this big separation between the ground and our object. So we're going to want to make sure that we've got enough images with overlap between the scale bar and our object so that both of these two objects kind of exist in the same universe. So let's capture that now. Now the great thing about scale bars and other reference data is you don't actually have to leave it in your scans if you want to go over that area in the future. Say you're capturing an environment and you can place down your scale bar on the ground, capture your reference, and enough data to kind of marry up that scale bar with the rest of the object you're scanning. But then you can pick it up and just remove it entirely from your scan. And by doing so, we can actually disable the images that were used to capture the scale bar from being used in geometry processing or texture processing, meaning that now this part of the ground in our scan is going to look completely normal and not have any sign that there was a scale bar there. So with that being said, let's continue the scan. Helps if I charge my batteries. All right, so phase one done. I've done a full round. As you can see, I did several different elevations of the object, as well as some type passes just focusing on the handles of the wicker basket. As you can see, it's got two handles on the side, so the back side of those might have been slightly occluded, as well as the bottom half of those. I also did some type areas around the rim where the lid was slightly off center, so I needed to get up and under that so that we've got at least something on the inside there. I'm now going to flip it over and we'll do a second pass. All right, done. So let's now jump onto the computer, we'll download the images and process them. All right, so we are now in a tool I've made called Image Space. This is an open source image processor for photogrammetry primarily. Could do with a lot more work. I'm not super happy with it in its current form, but it will work for now. So let's just first of all open up our raw images. I've saved these to my C drive. Under basket, raw. So let's just open that up now. And so the basic principle of this tool is we can select an image, we can set it as a color chart. It's going to run a chart detection algorithm on it, and as you can see, it changed and it updated with its calibrated colors as well as exposure. And this is basically applied to all images that you have loaded. This does work with like subgrouped images, and you can assign color charts to different image groups, but for now we're just doing it the really easy way. So I'm now just going to come in here to image editing, and I mean, looking at these, there's probably going to be a little bit of variance in exposure intensity, but for the most part, that looks fine. It will all average out anyway, so we'll keep that. All right, now we'll change the processing threads to 25, and yep, we want JPEG as our export, and we will hit process. So this will take a wee while, so we'll just jump back in a little bit. As you can probably hear, my CPU is absolutely roaring, so we will be back once it's done. All right, so here we are in Reality Scan. I've just loaded in all of our images, and I'm going to do this in 2 steps. First of all, I'm going to scroll all the way down here, find all of our upside down images, and set them to be disabled for alignment. This is just so that we can get a very clean first alignment and not have to worry too much about dealing with the errors that will come with having kind of 2 unique data sets within a scan. So we'll just run this through now. I'm also actually just going to switch this from this view into having the console active. The console is going to be very important in a minute. You can click on the top right of any of these icons and kind of slide your mouse down to and release there, and it will set it to console. Okay, good. Sounds like we are just about getting in alignment. Fantastic. Right, so we have our first alignment. Now we haven't actually identified our scale bar yet. So in order to do that, I find the easiest way will be to go into the web page where you made the scale bar, or wherever you saved that command line script or Python file, and in the bottom part of this console window, just paste it in there and hit enter. Editing Eric here. I just want to say that if you're using Reality Scan, it's always very wise to come up and go into your detect markers settings and change your marker type so that it matches the marker family that you selected for the scale bar that you made. If you don't do this, then you'll get no detections at all because it's analyzing your images for this particular target type. So for this, we're using square April tag 36H11. So this will run a detect markers and then a kind of assignment script which will assign all of the ground control points coordinates to all of those found control points from our scale bar. So as you can see here, we've got our points identified, and if we select them, you can see the X, Y, and Z locations of those points. But of course, it's still off axis, so we need to come into alignment here and click Update. And as you can see, everything's rotated. This is now squared off on the grid. Our object is offset, as we can expect, because this point here is our 000 point. So let's now just zoom out a bit, and yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so what happened here was I selected all of the right side up images, disabled them, and then re-enabled the flipped images, aligned those, cropped that down, and reconstructed the geometry in preview mode. And then I exported masks from all of the flipped images. Then I realigned everything back into one master scene and then generated geometry, and here we are. Here's the results of the alignment and processing. As you can see, we've got an absolute fantastic looking camera cloud from that. And the geometry is also outstandingly clean, especially considering it's a wicker basket, because there's just so much overlap in this. The scale is also bang on, and I did in fact texture this guy as well, so we can just enable that right now, and that also looks pretty good. It is a little dark on the top. You can see kind of the relative distances from the sides versus the top here is, probably half a stop of light fall off away. So it's not perfect, but I mean, it's very easy to clean up later. But yes, so we're now done with the scan. Let's now just wrap up the video. So that's about everything that I've got to talk about, at least when covering the basics of making and building scale bars and like a brief foray into using them. There's a lot more that you can do, mainly to do with things like using a central scale bar that has that XYZ definition for its ground control points, but then also making sets of distance control bars, whereby they don't have coordinates assigned to them, they've just got relative distances. So that means, I don't know if I've got some here, but you can see it in the big one on the background, but if you get 2 points, have a clearly defined distance between them, so these two here are 10 centimeters apart, so you can just lay these about the object or environment that you are capturing, and it will help kind of constrain the scale offset or the scale deviation across a long distance. So, if you're capturing a house or something, you only want one kind of central coordinate point, like your home point for your scan. But by placing distance bars around, you can then kind of ensure that by the time you go upstairs or 300 meters down a hallway, your scale is still going to be correct across that distance. Because you might have encountered this if you do kind of scanning over a kind of large area, but you can get what's known as the banana effect. And yeah, you don't want bananas in your scan. I mean, you can make the joke banana for scale, but not when the banana is your data. Yeah, I'd recommend looking into doing that. So like another use case could be, you could make a series of tags which just define the outer regions of a bounding box, for example. So you can have your scale bar, but then you can have 3 corners of a reconstruction region. That's what these larger tags are used for primarily in my use case. So if I'm scanning something and I want to completely automate the process, if these particular tags are identified, then I can automatically assign reconstruction regions around the object. And you can also do some other, fun automation things like having tags that define an object's automation style. So you could say when tag, 36H11 F13 is identified, that means that object is a car or a gun or like a suitcase sized object, and to apply those workflows to those objects. And that can be a further automation step for people. But if you're starting out, make yourself a 3-point scale bar, have a play around, see how it works for you. But yeah, in the end, have fun, scan stuff, share it, and join us on Discord. The link to our Discord server will be in the description. I'm quite active there, as well as numerous other very, very, very highly skilled folk. And yeah, there's just a lot of very good information there that can help you out or, keep you up to date in the latest trends in the scanning world. Thanks. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe.